Beatitudes are the introduction to what is arguably the most brilliant sermon ever preached, the Sermon on the Mount, preached by Jesus himself. They're blessings spoken by the Son of God to you, to people in all kinds of different circumstances in life, as you'll hear, but spoken by God to you and over you so that through naming reality and what ultimately is true about the different circumstances we find ourselves in life, God can meet us there, and you are blessed. And they're words that, when you receive a blessing in the Bible, they change you. So every time we've preached a beatitude, just read them over again. So hear them. The words of Jesus. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. And blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. When I first engaged the Beatitudes, maybe 12 or 13 years ago at New Hope Church, none of you were there. Maybe one or two of you were there. I remember reading this one, and then this one in particular was hard to understand or immediately get some sense of. There were two things I didn't get. I didn't get what it meant to inherit the earth, and I didn't get what the word meek meant. So other than those two things, I fully understood it, but those two words were unclear to me. And discovered in reading some commentaries from some other learned theologians that the inherit the earth part, in part, has connotations for life right now, but is mostly pointing to the new heaven and the new earth. And blessed are those who are meek, because you will inherit that eternal kingdom and be part of God's kingdom on earth. An everlasting, perfect relationship with God forever. So that's the end goal of the blessing, the good thing. But what does meek mean? A little more complicated. I looked it up on thesaurus.com and got this list: deferential, docile, gentle, passive, serene, subdued, submissive, timid, unassuming, acquiescent, etc., etc. The words that I really liked in there were milk, toast, and pablum. You know you're weak when you're being compared to bland foods. So, yeah, not such a upbeat and positive definition, at least on that web page. Now, some of the words are close. The Bible was written in the New Testament in Greek, and often we can't get the right English words to translate what the fullness of what the Greek word is. So the Greek word praus, in the Bible, they translate it gentle or mild or humble. But even those, when I read them, I go, it kind of leaves a weak impression, doesn't it? Blessed are the gentle, for they're going to win? Just seems upside down, especially because I'm so enculturated by the opposite message that I live in. Not in the church so much, but certainly in our culture. So what is meek? Well, there is more to meekness than words can capture. In the Old Testament, it's said of Moses, and the word is translated humble here, the Hebrew equivalent. Now, Moses was a very humble man, more humble than anyone else on the face of the earth. So Moses was meek. And Moses murdered somebody who was beating up on one of his people. And Moses challenged and questioned God, who was before him in a burning bush, calling him into this great calling. And he said, no, not me. I don't want to be the one who speaks. Moses stood up before the world leader, the Pharaoh in Egypt of that day, and brought calamity upon, had the guts to bring calamity upon, speak words of calamity upon the entire nation. Moses went up Mount Sinai, got the 10 Commandments from God, and smashed them into the rocks. That Moses was meek and humble. Now, not all that Moses did was right. Moses made mistakes, and yet the writer of Numbers says he was meek. So Moses proves that meek is not weak in the weakest sense of the word. Meekness is about carrying your strength in a way that may appear weak to others, but is just carrying your strength in a different place, in a different way. I wrote this definition. A meek person carries their strength deep within themselves. They don't always need to display it or flash it around for others to see. Deep inside, they are very secure. They know who they are, they know what they want, and they know where they are going. They trust God with all of their being, and in so doing, have a profound inner strength that thoroughly and obediently reflects God's character and will. So are you getting this? Meekness is not the absence of strength. It just means you have so much strength that it is you, and you don't have to show off, ever. It's kind of like the difference between Peyton Manning and Richard Sherman. And you knew I wasn't going to not do a Superbowl reference today. But Peyton Manning, the Broncos quarterback, when he wins today, he's going to defer to his teammates and his coaches. And he's known as a guy who just, when you ask him about himself, and he's a brilliant quarterback, maybe one of the best ever, right? But when he gets asked, he's always deferring to others. One blog said that he understands that his achievements are only made possible by the play of others that are around him. Richard Sherman, on the other hand, and maybe it's not all who Richard Sherman is, but Richard Sherman is kind of like this.
But Richard, let me ask you the final play. Take me through it.
Well, I'm the best corner in the game. When you try me with a sorry receiver like Crabtree, that's the result you're going to get. Don't you ever talk about me.
Who was talking about you?
Crabtree, don't you open your mouth about the best. Or I'm going to shut it for you real quick. LOB.
All right, and Joe, back over to you.
So meek, and in that particular circumstance, not so meek. But both very strong athletes and human beings and great football players. But meekness's strength is within. It's your character. It's just part of you. It's so part of you, so humbly part of you, you don't even think about it. You'd never think you were that kind of person, and yet everyone around you knows there's something in that person. And in relation to your faith, it's a strength of character that is rooted in knowing the right person, Jesus Christ, and His strength residing in you. People see you, and there's something of God living in you, His Holy Spirit. Jesus, when we take communion, is the embodiment of meekness. He was weak enough, God was weak enough to come to you and to us as a baby. And He was so sure of Himself, He could be that helpless. He was so confident when He got older and knew who He was that He could turn the other cheek and teach us to do the same, and love His enemies, and hang with people on the edges who might not be the in group, in fact weren't at all, but so knew who He was. He was so completely human, God with us, and Himself, that He never had to belittle other people and talk about them or gossip behind their backs. Love in his character was so alive and powerful and real and self-defining, he didn't have to do that. He was so sure of his Father's love that he would come to us and let us break his body. And that's somebody who knows, really knows, to the point of death, knows who they are.